What if I told you that some Roman cities, entire cities filled with markets, theaters, aqueducts, and temples, vanished so completely that for centuries no one even remembered they had existed? No ruins on the horizon, no broken columns, not even a whisper on the map, just silence. Imagine walking across an empty field, unaware that beneath your feet lies the ghost of a bustling Roman town. How does a city disappear without a trace? And more importantly, why? The Roman Empire is often remembered for its permanence. The Colosseum still towers over Rome, aqueducts still march across landscapes, and Roman roads still form the skeleton of Europe's highways. But history isn't always about what survives. Sometimes it's about what gets lost. Today, we're diving into one of the most haunting mysteries of the Roman world, the cities that once thrived, but then faded from memory. We're not talking about small villages or forgotten outposts. We're talking about real cities with forums, theaters, temples, and thousands of inhabitants. Places where people laughed, traded, prayed, and argued, just like we do today, and yet they vanished. Over the next half hour, we'll explore how this could happen. We'll uncover the story of Falerii Novi, a Roman city rediscovered not with shovels, but with radar. We'll walk through the sands of North Africa to find Timgad, a city so well preserved it was nicknamed the Pompeii of Africa, only to be buried by desert winds for over 1,000 years. We'll wander into the ruins of Ostia Antica, the forgotten lifeline of Rome itself, swallowed by river mud and silence. And finally, we'll reflect on the ghost cities we've never found at all, the Roman settlements lost to myth and memory. So the question is, if Rome was built to last forever, how did some of its cities manage to vanish without a trace? When we think of the Roman Empire, images of bustling forums, towering aqueducts, and the Colosseum immediately spring to mind. Rome, after all, was the eternal city, and its empire stretched from the misty isles of Britain to the deserts of Mesopotamia. But while much of Rome's story is told through surviving ruins, inscriptions, and monumental architecture, there is another, more haunting aspect of its history. Entire Roman cities that once thrived, but then vanished so completely that for centuries no one even remembered they existed. These are not just small villages tucked away in the countryside. Many were once proud municipalities with their own amphitheaters, marketplaces, temples, and forums. They were home to tens of thousands of people, centers of trade, and outposts of Roman civilization. And yet today, in some cases, they are nothing but ghostly names mentioned in old texts, or fields where farmers unknowingly plow over buried avenues. The reasons behind their disappearance vary. Natural disasters such as volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and floods erased some cities in moments, burying them beneath layers of earth or ash. Others fell victim to human conflict, raided, burned, or abandoned after centuries of war on the empire's frontiers. Still others simply faded due to slow decline, as rivers shifted, harbors silted up, or trade routes moved elsewhere. Over time, nature reclaimed these once thriving centers, covering them in sand, vegetation, or mud, until they slipped from living memory. And yet, despite their disappearance, they linger as tantalizing mysteries. For archaeologists and historians, these lost cities represent puzzles, fragments of walls, coins unearthed in plowed soil, or faint outlines revealed by satellites hinting at lives once lived in grandeur. Perhaps most striking is how the Romans themselves, famed for their record, keeping and chronicling, could lose track of cities. Ancient writers might mention them in passing. A city here was prosperous or destroyed in some calamity, and then the location is never found again. It shows us the fragility of memory, the way even empires of stone and marble can fade into silence. The lost Roman cities remind us that history is never fully complete, that the empire which prided itself on eternity was itself vulnerable to time's great erasure. To walk on the soil where these cities once stood, and knowing an entire community once thrived there, is to feel both the weight of the past and the ghostly absence of what was once so real. One of the most fascinating rediscoveries of recent decades is that of Falerii Novi, a Roman city that lay hidden beneath fields in central Italy for centuries. Unlike Pompeii or Herculaneum, which were uncovered by traditional excavation, Falerii Novi was revealed in astonishing detail through modern technology. Archaeologists employed ground-penetrating radar across farmland and, without lifting a single stone, managed to map out the entire structure of the city. What they uncovered was nothing less than a Roman urban time capsule. A perfect example of Roman city planning, preserved invisibly beneath the soil. The scans revealed a remarkably intact city plan, with streets running in a grid formation, public baths, temples, shops, and even a large aqueduct system. It offered a blueprint of how Roman municipal life functioned, frozen in time. Falerii Novi's story is remarkable, not just for the technology used to uncover it, but also because it demonstrates how even entire cities could slip out of memory. Once a thriving settlement, with thousands of inhabitants going about their daily lives, the city eventually declined and was forgotten. Local farmers for centuries worked the land above it, unaware that beneath their plows lay the stones of Roman markets and basilicas. The discovery of Falerii Novi forces us to reconsider the fragility of historical memory. If a city is structured, as significant, and as developed as this could disappear so thoroughly that it required 21st century technology to reveal it again, how many more such Roman towns still lie hidden beneath Europe's soil? The Romans themselves had meticulous records, yet time, invasions, and the collapse of imperial administration allowed many cities to fade into oblivion. What makes Falerii Novi even more compelling is that it shows us not a city destroyed in sudden catastrophe, but one that simply declined. As Rome's fortunes waned, so too did its far-flung towns. People left, walls crumbled, and the land quietly took back what had once been organized and ordered stone. In this sense, Falerii Novi is both a lesson and a haunting reminder. Rome's genius for building cities was unmatched, but even genius cannot hold back the slow march of time. Buried in silence for over a millennium, the rediscovery of Falerii Novi is a triumph of archaeology, a whisper from the ancient world reminding us that entire Roman lives, with their bustling routines and ambitions, still lie hidden beneath the surface, waiting to be brought to light. If one wants to understand how dramatically nature can erase the works of empire, one need only look to Timgad, a Roman city founded by Emperor Trajan in the 2nd century CE in modern-day Algeria. Known in its prime as a military colony, Timgad was carefully laid out with the precision and order Rome was famous for. Streets cut across each other in perfect right angles, creating a grid plan that was a hallmark of Roman urbanism. Temples, forums, theaters, and triumphal arches proclaimed its Roman identity in the very heart of North Africa. It was sometimes called the Pompeii of Africa, not because it was destroyed by a volcanic eruption, but because, like Pompeii, it was swallowed by nature, this time the endless sands of the Sahara. For over 1,000 years, the city lay hidden, its monuments entombed beneath layers of sand. Unlike cities that decayed slowly, Timgad's disappearance was sudden and absolute. Sandstorms relentlessly covered streets, buildings, and statues until the city was erased from sight. By the medieval period, Timgad had faded entirely from memory. Travelers walked over dunes, unaware that beneath their feet was an entire Roman colony that once teemed with life. Its rediscovery in the 18th century by French explorers was nothing short of a revelation. As the sand was cleared away, an entire Roman city emerged almost miraculously preserved, a window into the empire's presence in Africa. The beauty of Timgad's ruins today lies not only in their preservation, but in what they tell us about the reach of Rome. Here was a city far from the heart of Italy, and yet it bore all the hallmarks of Roman civilization. Bathhouses, a library, inscriptions in Latin, all carved into stone in the shadow of the desert. Yet this outpost of empire was no match for the forces of nature. In Timgad's story we find a paradox. Rome's desire to impose order and permanence upon the world was ultimately undone by the very environment it tried to master. The silence of Timgad across centuries also highlights how fragile memory can be. An entire city, with all its laughter, trade, and politics, can be buried in sand and forgotten, only to be rediscovered centuries later. It invites us to reflect on how many other Roman settlements might still lie under layers of earth or desert, waiting to remind us that Rome was once truly everywhere. When we think of Rome, we think of the eternal city sitting proudly on the Tiber River, but what many forget is that Rome's survival depended on a much quieter, less glamorous city at the river's mouth. Ostia Antica. Ostia was Rome's port, the vital hub where grain ships from Egypt and North Africa docked to feed the millions who lived in the capital. Without Ostia, Rome would have starved. The city bustled with warehouses, taverns, workshops, and temples. Sailors, merchants, slaves, and officials created a vibrant atmosphere that pulsed with the lifeblood of empire trade. For centuries, Ostia was indispensable to Rome's greatness. And yet, despite its importance, Ostia was abandoned and largely forgotten. How does a city so vital vanish? The answer lies in geography and time. Over centuries, the shifting course of the Tiber River, combined with silting and changes in the coastline, slowly cut Ostia off from the sea. As harbors silted up and trade routes shifted elsewhere, the city lost its relevance. By the medieval period, Ostia was a ghost town, its once busy docks now fields, its grand houses buried under vegetation. For centuries, the ruins of Ostia were left to decay, scavenged for stone, and largely ignored. Travelers passed nearby, but did not recognize that beneath the overgrowth lay one of Rome's most important arteries of survival. Today, Ostia Antica is a treasure for archaeologists and visitors alike. Its preservation offers an extraordinary glimpse into Roman daily life. Unlike the monuments of central Rome, which often reflect imperial grandeur, Ostia reveals the world of shopkeepers, bakers, sailors, and artisans. The mosaics, apartment blocks, and taverns show us the working class reality that kept the empire's heart beating. Walking its streets feels like stepping into the rhythms of ancient Rome. Yet the story of Ostia is also a reminder of how easily memory fades. Here was a city crucial to Rome's lifeline, and yet, within centuries, it had been swallowed by silence. Its rediscovery in the modern age revealed not just a lost port, but a lost chapter of Roman identity. Ostia Antica tells us that even the mightiest centers of empire can become forgotten ruins, covered in weeds, their importance erased until someone takes the time to uncover their story again. Perhaps the most haunting truth about lost Roman cities is that many of them are still missing. Ancient texts mention towns that flourished, traded, and were even renowned in their day, but their physical remains have never been found. Some were likely destroyed in disasters, swallowed by earthquakes, buried under volcanic eruptions, or drowned by floods. Others may have been erased deliberately, their names struck from records during times of political upheaval or rebellion. Still others simply faded, their stones repurposed, their streets reclaimed by forests or marshes, until no trace was left above the surface. These ghost cities exist in a strange space between history and myth. We know they were real because Roman historians wrote of them. Inscriptions sometimes hint at their existence, and coins from their mints occasionally turn up. Yet they remain elusive, waiting for archaeology to uncover their secrets. For historians, these lost cities are tantalizing absences. They remind us that history is not just about what survives, but also about what vanishes. Each lost city was once home to thousands of people, each with lives, loves, ambitions, and fears, all of which are now gone. Their silence is deafening. The Roman Empire prided itself on its permanence, calling itself eternal. Its roads, laws, and cities were meant to last forever. But the reality is that nothing is eternal. Time is merciless, and even Rome's greatest works could crumble into dust or be swallowed by the earth. The lost cities of Rome force us to confront this uncomfortable truth. Even civilizations that seem indestructible can vanish. What remains is not the bustling life of markets and temples, but faint outlines seen from satellites, inscriptions half buried in dirt, or the whispered names of places whose exact locations are forgotten. For us today, the fascination with these ghost cities lies not just in the possibility of rediscovery, but in what they say about memory itself. Empires rise and fall, but human beings, with all their striving and creativity, leave behind traces, however faint. To study the lost cities of Rome is to listen for echoes across time, to catch glimpses of communities erased yet never entirely gone. They are the shadows of empire, testaments to both the greatness and fragility of Rome's legacy. So what have we uncovered? We've seen a Roman city hidden under farmland, revealed by modern technology. We've watched a desert swallow a city whole, only to give it back centuries later. We've walked through a forgotten port that once fed an empire, and we've reflected on the ghost cities we may never find. These stories show us that Rome was not eternal in the way it believed. Its monuments may stand, but entire cities could and did vanish. Yet their disappearance does not diminish Rome's legacy. In fact, it deepens it. Because in every lost city, there is a reminder of how fragile even the greatest civilizations can be, and how much there still is left to uncover. If you enjoyed this journey into Rome's forgotten cities, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Empire Remembered, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure into the past. And tell me in the comments, if you could rediscover one lost Roman city, which one would you choose?